We'll definitely ask Brad Graham about Trayvon Creed.
Don't you want to grow up to be just like me?
He's a Warrior fan. We'll ask Brad Graham. I saw him tweet about the situation, so we will get a question in. But we want to talk some Niners, man. They're on their way to Atlanta. They're at the Greenbrier right now. They have a chance to win 3 in a row. 3 in a row. Go figure. And they're in first place in the NFC West and looking good right now. We do have to ask about the injuries. But Brad Graham is an offensive line specialist. SF Niners. Go find his content. It's some of the best content out there. 49ers got a lot of great content producers, but
had Patrick Willis on pregame.
I know. How sick is that?
That was ridiculous.
This guy gets better guests than us. What's up, Sam Lubman? Brad Graham, what's happening? Good morning.
What's good, fellas? Thank you for having me on, man. I really appreciate it.
Anytime, brother. Anytime, man. And let me ask you right off the rip, Brad, this offensive line, we looked at them in training camp. We said they were the weak link of the team. After week 1, we're like, damn, they're looking suspect. Week 3 in Denver, oh, boy, Jimmy's getting killed. Jalen Moore is now playing for Trent Williams. But now this offensive line seems like it's gelling a bit, and I want to have you on here just to give them that credit. Aaron Banks, Brindle, Burford. I didn't mention their names last week, which I think is a good thing.
Absolutely. I mean, that's the thing that we talk about with the offensive line, too, because it's basically a team within the team, right? You got 5 guys playing up front. They do need time to gel, and you have 3 guys on the interior who are really getting their first crack as being full-time starters. One of them a rookie, one a second-year player, and you got a journeyman vet in Brendel, but they're all kind of playing for their first time here. And we're starting to see, once they're getting more reps, more opportunities, things are starting to fall into place. And I do got to give credit to Jalen Moore, especially considering how he looked in Denver, to be able to come back and bounce back, especially against a guy like Brian Burns, who's one of the elite edge rushers in the NFL. You've got to give credit to this offensive line. You had Jeff Wilson bust out for 120 yards rushing. Tevin Coleman re-entered the party. And a lot of that had to do with how the guys were opening up holes up front. So I got to give a lot of credit to the 49ers offensive line, considering, there's a bit of a question mark there heading into this season. So they've been doing a good job so far.
Yeah, and I felt like Jimmy Garoppolo was so rhythmic. I love the way they were mixing it up, throwing on early downs, getting the ball out quicker. It just felt like, I don't know. I mean, I know that they didn't have an offensive explosion in terms of passing the ball, but it felt like the most fun I've had watching this offense because all the playmakers felt like they were getting touches in a really long time.
I mean, we saw Jimmy Garoppolo throwing outside the numbers. We saw him challenging defenders deep. We saw him really facilitating the football to all the different types of receivers that they have. And I think when you look at 49ers football and you see Jimmy Garoppolo playing like that, it really is kind of inspiring because we know Jimmy can show a different side to things. And to get that type of ball from Jimmy Garoppolo, where he's given Tevin Coleman one-on-one opportunities on the outside, and he's threading the football in between defenders, like, that's the type of football that we want to see from Jimmy Garoppolo. Yeah. He's capable, but I think what we got to see is, can he do that consistently? And if he can, San Francisco 49ers offense could be pretty fun to watch moving forward.
Yeah, Brad Graham at SF Niners. Follow him on YouTube at SF Niners, Twitter at Graham_SFN. Some of the best 49ers content you'll find. Patrick Willis was on the pregame show before they played the Carolina Panthers. And you're right about Jimmy. Thread the needle, throw it with velocity. Let his playmakers have a chance to make a play. That's all we want. I remember the Crabtree quote when they lost to the New York Giants back in the NFC Championship game where he said, sometimes you got to just let your playmakers make a play. Yep. And I think we saw that from Jimmy. I do want to fast forward to the injuries, though, Brad. How concerning are these injuries? Because that, to me, is the only thing that can derail this whole thing when you look at the landscape in the NFC. Cowboys, Eagles, Niners, I think those are the top 3 teams, but you got to be healthy. These injuries are starting to pile up.
I feel like we've been talking about it for years at this point. The only way the 49ers are going to lose is if they suffer injuries or defeat themselves by not playing fundamentally sound football. Mm-hmm. And this last week, obviously, you lose Emmanuel Mosley, who I think is one of the most underrated 49ers on the team. I think he was playing his highest level of football to this point. E-Man, across from Charvarius Ward,
yeah.
I think Ward really brought another element to that room, and E-Man was matching it, and they were both playing phenomenally. And E-Man doesn't get enough credit, and it is going to be extremely difficult to replace him. The benefit that the 49ers have this year opposed to last year is they have depth now, opposed to they had rookie Deommodore Lenoir, rookie Ambry Thomas. They had to bring in Josh Norman off the streets. Drake Kirkpatrick. Well, this year, they're in a little bit of a different situation, and we're going to see, is Jason Verrett going to be back this week? And if he is, what type of level will he play at? Because we've seen, going back to 2020, he's played at he's played at a Pro Bowl caliber level before returning from injury. We'll see if we get the same thing. But you have that benefit of the doubt, and you have these other young cornerbacks with a full year of experience. So we're going to see if it's going to be Samuel Womack, Diamador Lenore, Henry Thomas, or Jason Verrett. But yeah, that to me is an absolutely big loss, losing E-Man.
Yeah, I'm with you on that, and hopefully they can find a way to get through these injuries. Nick Bosa, I would probably sit him just to get him healthy so he's right when it comes playoff time.
Well, how many D linemen's going to suit up this week?
I mean,
they're all on the injury
cluster
report.
Injuries. Charles Omenihu, don't sleep on my guy.
Yeah, he is good.
And Drake Jackson.
Yeah, I like him.
Brett, let me ask you a fun one, because I'm looking in the background. You had Patrick Willis on your pregame show last week, and I see the Patrick Willis jersey in the background. It's a twofold thing. I look back on those 49ers from Harbaugh era, and I go, God, I wish they would have made a deal for a wide receiver like Deshaun Jackson. Which core are you taking? The Harbaugh core of players, or this Shanahan last 3-4 year core of players, if push came to shove?
That's really difficult, but that Harbaugh core was special, man. I mean, I was talking with Patrick Willis, man, before the show, and I'm like, I was just talking about the defense that he was on. I was like, man, you had Justin Smith in front of you. You had Alden Smith in front of you. You had Ahmad Brooks. You had Bowman playing next to you. Then behind you, you have Whitner and Deshaun Goldson. And, I was like, oh, man. I was like, it was just such a good team. And you had Frank Gore in the offensive line in 2012 was just maulers. And you had peak Vernon Davis. So,
Delaney Walker.
Dude, even Kendall Hunter out there, man, was making plays.
My guy.
I love Kendall.
So, it's a great conversation. I think it actually is up for debate, but right now, my heart, man, really was solidified with those 2011, 2012 teams, man.
Yeah.
With how much talent they had, Vic Fangio leading the way. They just had so much depth too on that defensive side that it's hard to bet against that 2012 core that they had.
And that's kind of where I'm going with this. So, you look back on that, you're like, God, I wish they would have had a receiver. They needed one more playmaker, or maybe they needed a secondary player looking back on it because they got crushed in the Super Bowl by Bolden. So I'm looking at this year's team, and I'm saying to myself, they have an opportunity. The West feels open. The NFC feels open. Odell Beckham's out there. You can sign him as a free agent. Christian McCaffrey's out there. I would trade draft picks to bring him in. I think he's the perfect playmaker to add to Debo and everything they got going. If you had to choose between the two, do you lean more go after a receiver or go after Christian McCaffrey?
I mean, Christian McCaffrey is still an extremely electric player. I got to really, kind of watch him on tape against the 49ers this past week, and he still got it. His jump step, he just levitates through the hole. And then he just punches it through. He's a special player, and regardless of what the perception may be with the injuries, he is really phenomenal, and he's still got it. He's still got the juice. So if it came to it, if I had the choice, out of those two, I'm definitely going Christian McCaffrey, 10 out of 10 on that one. You put Christian McCaffrey running behind this offensive line, the 49ers are doing damage, man.
Well, that's the thing. We're talking to Brad Graham, SF Niners. Follow him at SF Niners. You will not regret it. He has some of the best Niners content out there in the business. No joke. Seriously, I learned a lot from just watching his breakdowns on offensive line play, defensive line play, all of it. When you think about McCaffrey, because my thing was that, Joe, look, you've whiffed on third-round picks. You've whiffed on second-round picks. You've been trying to find running backs forever. You signed a running back that didn't work out in Jerick McKinnon. Well, you know what? These picks in the future feels like this window's wide open right now, and who knows who you may play in the Super Bowl. But with the NFC wide open, why not go all in now? And I don't know how much it costs for Christian McCaffrey, but I think about the stress on the defense, right? You get Christian McCaffrey underneath. All of a sudden, the seam routes are open for George Kittle. All of a sudden, Ayuk is getting one-on-one down the field. Debo Samuel has a little more space to work with when you added Christian McCaffrey, and I think that's the missing element. All those years, we talk about the Harbaugh teams and the Shanahan teams. Doesn't it always feel like they're one playmaker short? Especially in that Rams game. One playmaker short where the Rams had Beckham, Kupp, and Higbee, or whatever backup tight end they had coming in there catching passes.
Well, the beauty of CMC is he is a wide back, so you don't need Debo Samuel to play out of the backfield anymore. You can use him in his traditional role in the slot, wherever you want to use him, because Christian McCaffrey is a phenomenal pass catcher as well. He can run the Texas and choice routes out of the backfield. You can shift them out wide. He can do all the things as a pass catcher. You could use him the same exact way as they use Deebo Samuel, but now you got two of those types of guys on the roster. I mean, if it came down to it, and the San Francisco 49ers somehow got their hands on Christian McCaffrey, brought him back to the Bay Area, of course, the Stanford kid, reunited with Kyle Shanahan with the connections they've made with his Christian's pops and all that good stuff.
Yep.
It would be a lot of fun to watch. And, the 49ers, you get Elijah Mitchell, Jeff Wilson in there, even Tevin Coleman. Talk about a four-headed monster at running back.
What is something we have to worry about with the Falcons this upcoming Sunday? Kyle Pitts is back in practice. We know about Drake London. Mariota's a veteran. We know what type of quarterback he is. But defensively, offensively, break down the Falcons for us, Brad. Why should we be worried about the Falcons on Sunday?
I honestly, heading into this game, I look at the Falcons. They're what, 2-3 right now.
Yep.
They're I would say they're the kind of the epitome of a mediocre team right now. The biggest thing that you have to worry about is playing that East Coast game. Obviously, the 49ers are at the Greenbrier doing all that good stuff. So they're going to be acclimated. Their body clocks are going to be ready. So it's not a big of an issue this week. But they're on the road. When I really look at that team, I feel like their offensive line can be beat. I think they got a bottom-half offensive line in the NFL. I think the best skill player that they have on their position or on their team is Cordell Patterson. He's on IR right now. And I don't know if they're going to be able to have a really strong balance of run and pass. So if they get one-dimensional, even if, let's say, Nick Bosa doesn't go, Charles Omenihu is still top 5 in win rate when rushing the passer. So they're still going to find ways to get after him. And, Kyle Pitts, he's a phenomenal talent. He really hasn't been able to shake free this year. Drake London is also a phenomenal talent, but same thing with him. He hasn't really been able to explode with consistency. So, I don't want to be too confident heading into this game, but I also do think that the 49ers, if they play their brand of football, especially we get the Jimmy Garoppolo that we saw consistently being able to spread the ball around, being able to open up running lanes, the 49ers should win this game. But we understand any given Sunday, anything can happen.
Yeah, just don't turn the ball over. You should be fine. Just don't turn the ball over. Real quickly, Brad, because you were commenting on Draymond Green. I know you're a big sports fan. What'd you make of the situation? You've been in a lot of locker rooms. You played at a high level. What'd you think of the situation, Brad?
It was definitely nuts to hear about Draymond and the situation that went down. I've been a fan of the Warriors for a long time. I remember the night that Draymond got drafted in the second round was one of my favorite picks by the Warriors. So I've been a Draymond guy from the very beginning. But man, to clock your own guy, that's tough, man. And especially for it to leak out and become public the way it has, it's obviously going to compound and create a big stir. So I do know they've been talking about getting him an extension and all that type of thing. But it's going to be really interesting to see how it plays out. But to just see it's a bit jarring, especially for a guy like Jordan Poole, who's a really ascending player within the organization, and kind of Draymond's like maybe on the tail end. He's still got some juice left, but he's kind of on the tail end. It feels like, and the timing of it, it's crazy, man. It was really crazy to see.
Brad, you're always good to us, my man. We love your work.
Yeah,
we love what
great
you do
stuff.
at SF Niners. It's one of the best accounts out there. Brad at sfniners.com. Find him on YouTube at the SF Niners. Has a lot of great guests on. Players respect him. 49er fans respect him. Pumps out great content. We can't wait to see what you got cooked up after the Atlanta game. Brad, always good talking to you, brother.
Butch Bonta, appreciate you guys.